We are joined by Michael McKee, Bloomberg's chief international economics and policy correspondent. When you look at the health of the consumer right now, there are clearly so many fears about inflation expectations. When is this going to be a bigger deal? It seems like it's already starting to be.
It's starting to be, and the University of Michigan basically says this comes down to one person, Donald Trump. This survey went through Inauguration Day, and what it shows is people are afraid of two things: higher inflation brought on by tariffs and the idea that maybe the labor market is softening and their job prospects won't be as good next year. They asked people about tariffs, and only 19% said they thought higher tariffs would be a good thing for the economy. 62% say they favor lower tariffs or no tariffs. So that's a big issue for people out there. The only thing that the Michigan people say kind of offsets this is that we have seen essentially strong consumer spending. So people are not acting on these issues yet, but it's something to keep an eye on.
When it comes to these surveys, do levels matter here? Because we're above 70, we're above where we were this time last year, even with this slight decline. I mean, how much should we read into this?
Well, you've got this survey and the Conference Board survey, which comes out next week, and they both use different scales. So the level doesn't matter so much as the direction and the speed of the move. And the fact that we've gone down for the first time in months says something about where people are. It looks like they're more nervous about the future than concerned to the point where they pull back. But they're keeping an eye on things. They're not maybe going to spend as much on big ticket items while they wait to see how all this works out.
How much is real and how much is rhetoric? I'm looking at, for example, Torsten Slok's note from this morning that charts these inflation expectations from the University of Michigan by political party. And what you see is the Democrat expectations have just soared for inflation, while Republican expectations have declined quite meaningfully. So what's real at the end?
Well, Americans are very bad at guessing what inflation is, although in recent years they hear the numbers all the time, so they're maybe a little bit more on top of this. But that's what always happens. Whenever there's a change of control in Washington, there's a change in the view of the economy. And in this case, today we see Republicans are much more optimistic about the economy. Democrats are much more pessimistic about the economy. But the interesting thing is that Republicans tend to answer the survey more, according to the University of Michigan. So they carry a little bit more weight. So the fact that we've seen inflation expectations in the next year rise, and they stayed at 3.3% in the final survey, does suggest people have inflation on the mind. Now, gas prices have gone up a little bit, so maybe that's part of it, but it's something to keep in mind.
We know a lot of investors watching it closely. RBC's Lori Calvasina have been saying that it's been high up in her investor presentations. Bloomberg's Michael McKee, we thank you so very much for joining us this morning.